Hello, this is Kathleen, and I'm here to give you an overview of how to use other sources in your essays, how to cite, quote, and paraphrase in your essays. This might be new to you, but it's something that's very important in college and academic writing. So let's get started. First, think about why do we use ideas from other sources in our writing? Why do we need to use ideas from books, from articles, from websites in our writing? Take a minute to think about this. Maybe some of the answers that you thought were to add credibility. That means to get some information from someone who is an expert or has more knowledge. Sometimes we also use sources to share information that we don't personally know. So, for example, if someone asks us to define a word and we don't know the definition of the term, we have to use a source to find that information. Sometimes we use sources because we disagree with what we are saying. With what they are saying, and we want to argue against them, or sometimes we're just in dialogue with them. We want the sources or other articles to support our points, or we want to sort of compare our own ideas with someone else's ideas. So this is a very important part of college writing, and it's important to understand this key idea. In academic writing, we use both quotes and paraphrases. So let's look at some of the ways they're different and some of the ways they're similar. With a quote, we use the exact words from another source. We copy them directly, and we use quotation marks at the beginning and at the end. We use quotation marks to show that the words are copied exactly from a source. After we provide a quote, we use a citation to give credit to the source. When we paraphrase, we put the ideas from the source in our own words. We don't copy the ideas directly. We change the words and we change them significantly so that they don't look exactly the same as the quote. In a paraphrase, we do not use quotation marks because that indicates we are not copying exactly. But we do need to use citation to give credit to the source. So remember, for both a quote or a paraphrase, any ideas from other sources, we have to use citation. And I'm going to talk about how to provide that type of citation. Okay? So citation means giving credit to your sources. That means you must cite any ideas from an article, a website, or a book, whether they are quotes or paraphrases. And in English 101, also ESL classes, we use MLA citation. There are different systems of citation, and we will be using and learning MLA. There are 3 required pieces that every quote or paraphrase must have. In the beginning, before the quote or paraphrase, we need a signal phrase that will introduce the quote or paraphrase. Next, we have the quote or paraphrase itself. And finally, we have a parenthetical citation. Parenthetical comes from the word parentheses, which is another word for brackets. But these are round brackets that we use that are called parentheses that provide information or details about our source. So let's look at these a little more closely. Starting with a signal phrase. Every time that you have a quote or paraphrase, you must introduce your quote or paraphrase with a signal phrase. Here are some examples of signal phrase. According to the author stated, the author said, or the author made the argument. Okay? These are just like a phrase, like a flag, a signal, a sign that shows us, okay, information from another source is coming. That means we don't just want to start our sentence with a quote. We want to always include one of these before a quote. Here you see the words the author used, but when you are writing, you will use the author's name. The first time that you mention an author, you can use the person's first name and the last name. After that, you will use the last name only. That means you will use the family name only. Do not use the person's first name only. Do not use the person's first name only, like Kathleen or Meg. You must use only the last name. Mine is Reynolds. If you are not sure when you're looking at a source what is the person's last name, it's okay to ask someone or ask your teacher. But in general, when we see someone's last name published, we have first name and then last name. If there's a comma between them in something you're reading, then the last name is listed first. If there is no author, sometimes it happens, especially when you're using a website, an article from a website, there is no author given. Sometimes there's the name of an organization, and for example, the United Nations. Okay, maybe you're quoting information from the United Nations. If not, you could also use the title of the article. So according to the article, and then you would put the title of the article and then put your quote in a signal phrase. So remember to always use a signal phrase. Okay? After a quote or paraphrase, we use a parenthetical citation that gives credit to the source. So here you see the parentheses I was talking about. They should be these round brackets that you can find on your keyboard over the number 9 and number 0 key. And you can see two different examples here. We would always want to use the author's last name and the page number in the parentheses. We never put the first name in parentheses, even if it's the first time we're mentioning them. We just put the person's last name and the page number. If there is no page number, you can use the author's last name only. So sometimes for an article that was in a book, we would have a page number. For most online articles, there is no page number, so it's okay just to list the last name. Again, if there is no author, you should use the organization or the title. Okay? And finally, a reminder, the person who is speaking in an article might be different from the author. Use the author. Okay? What does this mean? Sometimes authors quote another person inside their article, but we would never cite that other person's name. That's not our job. Our job is just to say what the article has, who wrote the article. If someone would like to see exactly or more information about exactly who was speaking the words in an article, they would be able to go back to the original article and find that information. So as a reminder, we always need these three parts, and now we know what they are. The signal phrase, according to, then the quote or paraphrase, and followed by a parenthetical citation. Okay, let's look at a couple of examples. Here are some examples of quotes. So you can see here a signal phrase, according to Thomas Devlin, then a comma. You can see the words are in quotation marks that are copied directly from the article. And here I have put the author's last name in parentheses, and the period goes after that. That's because that's the end of the sentence. Here's another example with Kieran McGovern explains. This part is my signal phrase. I have the quoted information, then I have the author's last name, and this one has a page, so I put the page number here, and again the period after the parentheses. Okay, we also have a paraphrase examples. Okay, the paraphrase examples, you can see that there are no quotation marks here. However, there is somebody being cited with the person's name, okay? And you can see the first and last name is used, and we also have a parenthetical citation, and we have a parenthetical citation here with a page number, okay? So that's, so you might be wondering now how to paraphrase. Of course, it's pretty not easy, but it's pretty easy to quote because you just copy directly the information from an article. But what if you want to paraphrase by putting it in your own words? I'm going to just mention quickly 4 different strategies that you can use for paraphrasing. Okay, that means when you want to put something that you read in your own words. The first strategy is just called memory. That means read the line that you want to paraphrase and then close it and write what you remember. Just read it, close it, look away from it, and then write what you remember. Then you will go back and check to make sure that you did not copy words exactly. So this can be a good way to paraphrase. And you can use 2, 3, or 1 of these strategies when you paraphrase. So another way is synonyms. We talked about this a little bit, using words that mean the same. There is something called the thesaurus. You can search for it. And the thesaurus helps you search for words that have the same meaning as a word. Remember, don't use a thesaurus or substitute word for word when you paraphrase. You should also use one of the other two strategies, using a new subject or changing the connecting words. So when you use a new subject, it means choose a different subject for the sentence that you are writing. If the original sentence started with the word people, you should choose a different subject, like reasons, or something that applies, of course, to your sentence. But don't try not to use the same subject or even a synonym of the same subject. Try to change the order of the sentence around a little bit. Another thing you can do is change connecting words. For example, if the original uses but, you could change it to however. If the original uses therefore, you could change it to so. If the original uses and, you could use in addition. Okay, so this presentation was a very quick overview of how to use quotes and paraphrases in your writing. I will be providing more support and more practice with this to you, but I hope this helps you in getting the general idea. Thank you.